guys, it's Whitney from All the Shelves. This week I was tagged by Victoria at A Hermit's Progress to do the reader problems tag, and I will link her channel down below, even though I am sure if you are subscribed to my channel you are probably already subscribed to hers and you already know how brilliant and thoughtful and considerate she is, so I feel really honored to be acknowledged by her in her video. And I'm also really excited to talk about the way that I read. So far on this channel I've mostly been talking about specific books, and this is a more general tag about my reading habits, so that'll be fun. The first question is, you have 20,000 books on your TBR. That sounds about right, actually. How in the world do you decide what to read next? While I'm reading a book, maybe I just have a restless mind, but a lot of times I will be like thinking about the next book that I'm reading. So when I'm done reading the book, I will usually just pick up the book that I was thinking about the most. So right now I'm reading Fledgling by Octavia Butler, and I am really into it. I've been way into her stuff in the past few months, and so I'm finally going to pick up Adulthood Rights. This book is boring, but it's Adulthood Rights, which is her second in the, I think they call it Lilith's Brood series, but I think there's different names for it. Anyway, just because I've been thinking about it and kind of craving it as I'm reading the one. The next question is, you're halfway through a book and you're just not loving it. Do you quit or are you committed? I will stick with it usually. If I'm halfway through and I've committed that much time to it, I'll usually just read till the end. I'm not a super fast reader, but I'm not a really slow reader, and I also have some extended time to sit around and read, so I'll give it a go just to say that I've read it, I guess. I'm not really sure why I do that. I'm a little bit obsessive about it maybe. But if I'm only like 100 pages into a book and I'm not loving it, then I will let it go. The third question is, the end of the year is coming up and you're so close but so far away on your Goodreads reading challenge. Do you try to catch up, and how? I've been on both sides of this. I have had years where I haven't met my reading challenge, and I've had years where I far exceeded my reading challenge, and I never felt a lot of pressure either way. I think like I like seeing the like, you are 3 books ahead of your reading challenge. Like, for some reason that like gives me some pride, but if I am not gonna get there, I don't really stress about it. I would never like read shorter books just to get to the number, because I'm more interested in the reading process than the reading results, if that makes sense. The fourth question is, the covers of a series you love do not match. How do you cope? I was looking through all my shelves in preparation for this, and I just don't have a lot of series. It's not that I don't read a lot of series, although I probably read less series than others, but I just don't buy them. I think it's because like I don't want to commit to a series early on and then, you know, not want to keep up buying them. I think one of the only series that I own in its complete set is the Narnia books, because it was given to me as a child. But I do have these J.D. Salinger books that kind of drive me crazy because they're so close. Like there's 2 of them that are this way, right? And then there are 2 of them that are this way. And why? Why can't I just have all 4 the same? They're nearly identical, but just not quite there, and it does bug me a little. Alright, the 5th question is, everyone and their mother loves a book you really don't like. Who do you bond with over shared feelings? I kind of feel like my reading life is quite personal. Starting this YouTube channel was an effort to talk to people more about books, because I talk to people in an academic setting about books, which is very different than talking to people in my general life about books. So I have a best friend who reads a bit, but we read very different things, and I have a mom who reads a lot, but we almost completely disagree on books. And so if everybody likes a book and I don't really like it, I don't feel compelled to like complain to a lot of people, although I am sure that my husband hears more about the books that I'm reading than he ever wanted to, but that's what you get for marrying me. The 6th question is, you're reading a book and you are about to start crying in public. How do you deal? I can probably count on one hand how many times a book has actually made me like cry actual tears. Like I will tear up and I'll get misty and, you know, my lip might quiver or something, but I'm not going to be like sobbing over a book. I remember crying over Where the Red Fern Grows, obviously. And I actually cried a little bit in the second of Elena Ferrante's Neapolitan series, just because I think I was feeling more shame than anything else about how much I related to that story. But if I'm in public reading and I felt like I was going to cry, I would probably put that book down. I don't want to be the stranger in the park that everyone's kind of like side-eyeing as they walk by. That I don't want to be that person. The 7th question is, a sequel of a book you loved just came out, but you've forgotten a lot from the prior novel. Will you read the book, skip the sequel, try to find a synopsis on Goodreads, cry in frustration? There's a lot of exclamations and question marks after that one. If a series is coming out and I don't remember the first one, it really depends on how much I loved the first one. If I really, really loved it, I'll probably pick it up again and reread it. I remember doing this with the Harry Potter books. As new ones came out, I would reread a couple before just to like reorient myself. But if it was a series that I liked a lot, but I don't really want to spend all the time reading it, I'll go to Wikipedia and look up the synopsis. Or even better, if there is a movie version of the book, I will watch the movie, which is, I think, super, super helpful. Question 8 is, you do not want anyone borrowing your books. How do you politely tell people nope when they ask? Well, this is a little presumptuous. I don't mind if people borrow books. There are some books that I might hold on to, and if someone asked to borrow it, I would just say no. Maybe I'm a total curmudgeon, but I feel like my friends know me enough to, if I say no, not take like deep personal offense to that. But for the most part, I don't mind loaning out books because I am not very careful with my books. I bend pages and I shove it in my backpack, and I feel like the content of the book is so much more important than the cover, and part of that is probably because I'm super cheap and I don't buy a lot of new books, and so the books that I'm getting already have the signs of the people who read them before, and that's something I actually really treasure about the used books that I own. So if I love something and I want somebody else to share in that love, like, I will loan it out, and usually I'll loan it out with the understanding that I'm probably not going to get that book back, and that's fine. I say fine a little hesitantly because it's not fine, like, you should be a good person and give me back my books, but you know, if it doesn't happen, I understand that, and I have quite a few books right now that belong to other people that I might not even ever see again. Oh, like I have, you know those David Edding, like, fantasy books? I read a whole bunch of those in junior high, and I remember all our friends would pass it out, and one kid that I barely knew let me borrow one of his, and I still have it, and every time I see it at my parents' house, like, sitting on the shelf, I feel deep guilt. But I am for sure not going to look up this junior high acquaintance to give him back his 50-cent book, you know? Question 9 is reading ADD. You've picked up and put down 5 books in the last month. How do you get over your reading slump? I sometimes do get into those kinds of reading slumps, and the way that I get out of them is through comics. I think that comics are super easy to get through, and you get that same kind of feeling of accomplishment from finishing comics, even though it only takes a couple minutes. You can rack them up really fast, feel like you're actually doing some reading. It is a kind of reading, but it's not as big of a commitment if you don't love the thing that you're reading, and I never feel guilt for just putting down a comic book if a couple pages in. I think it's stupid. So comics do kind of pull me up out of that reading slump. And I feel like a lot of people have said that about comics, which is really interesting that we're still seeing them as a kind of easier reading, one that washes over you, even though, like, all the comics theory says that comics produce active readers that must sort of read back and forth and absorb all this visual information and make active choices about where in the panels their eyes go. So that's really fascinating to me, that comics are still feel either more stimulating or easier to read. Something I need to think about more. The 10th question is, there are so many new books coming out that you're dying to read. How many do you actually buy? And the answer is usually none. I am not a very good financial supporter of the book industry. I use my public library more than anybody I know. I'm there maybe 3 times a week. It's just down the block, and so I kind of use it as a place to walk to if it's a nice day and I want to get some exercise. And I will go and browse, and I always have at least like 25 to 30 books from the library on my shelf. That's just my public library. Then I have access to the university library. They will get me anything I want on interlibrary our library alone, and their general collection, since I'm a PhD student, has no due dates, which is dangerous. I have so many books from that library too that people will get if they recall, but other than that, I've had a couple of them for like years as I'm writing my dissertation. And the last question is, after you've bought the new books you can't wait to get to, how long do they sit on your shelf before you get to them? Forever. I have books on my shelves that have been there for so long, and I feel a little bit of guilt about it because they are taking up a lot of space, and my channel name, All the Shelves, is very accurate. I have all the shelves in my apartment, which it's weird that the one place that has good lighting, I'm like halfway underground in my apartment, the one place that has good lighting, I don't have shelves behind me, but you do what you gotta do. Yeah, I own a lot of books. There are a lot of books on my shelves that I haven't read, and since I use the library so much, I prioritize those so I can get them back into circulation, and they could sit there for years. But if I'm really, really stoked on something, I might pick it up right away, like you never know. So that is the reader problems tag. Last time when I did my very first tag video, I forgot to tag other people, which is kind of the whole point of reading tags, right? So I know that I'm new to BookTube, and so you might have already done this tag, and I'm sorry if this is a repeat, but the first person that I want to tag is Stephanie from Time to Read. She has this like really calm, quiet way of talking about books that I just find very soothing and interesting. So I would love to hear more about her reading habits. The second person that I want to tag is Angelica at Mercury Calling. She always has really interesting discussion videos, and so I would love to hear what she had to say about these more general questions. And the third person that I'd like to tag for this one is Elena at Elena Reads Books. She always has like just a very exuberant, excited way of talking about things, which I think would work really well with this reading problems tag. So I'll tag those three people. Let me know in the comments if you have already done this tag and I can watch your responses, or if you do the tag and you want to let me know, or really anything that you want to say in my comments that are nice and not mean.